Thanks for tuning in to watch The Ordinary Filmmaker. I've got a couple of news items for you today. One about the Canon EOS R3 and another about Canon financials. And then at the end I'm going to do a little bit of behind the scenes talking about my new set and some new products I'm interested in reviewing. That is, of course, if you're interested. First up is the Canon EOS R3. Nakashita reports that the Canon EOS R3, labeled DS126858, has entered certification in Taiwan. Now, Nakashita notes that there are actually 5 different models of the R3 in certification, but what's of real note here is the R3 is the only camera currently before certification. So what does that mean? Well, that means we're not going to see any other Canon cameras be announced or released for sale in the next month, and most likely the next time we're going to see any cameras announced is going to be in the September or October timeframe, which is generally a pretty big time for cameras. Not as big as the spring, but as we've seen in 2021, well, we've had very little. Now, the year started off really, really well. Sony announced the Alpha 1 within the first half of the month, and we were supposed to get the A7 IV shortly after that. We didn't. In fact, we got nothing. We didn't get the GH6. We didn't get any Canon APS-C cameras. We didn't get any Canon full-frame mirrorless cameras like the RP replacement or some sort of EOS R replacement. It's been very, very quiet. And we did hear a lot of news about the R1, but then that completely dried up. And without any rumors whatsoever, without even an inkling, Canon announced the development announcement for the Canon EOS R3. So the R3 is the camera that we expect to be announced next, but there is absolutely nothing else. Now, speaking of Canon, now let's turn over to Canon financials. Canon posted better than expected financials, and they attributed a large part of this to the R5 and the R6. Sorry to interrupt myself again. I'll get right to the news. Just a reminder, please click like and subscribe. And now, back to our regular scheduled video. In the second quarter, the share of total sales attributed to the R5 and R6, for which sales remain strong, has increased more than expected. So it looks like the R5 and R6 continue to be a driver of sales, which is really helping Canon out. Their previous quarters were better than expected, once again in part due to increased sales from the R5 and R6. But Canon also attributes another benefit to their increased sales from the sales of RF lenses, taking a negative and turning it into a positive. Now, you might be aware that basically trying to purchase any Canon RF glass and even R5s has become rather difficult. And Canon says this is largely due to the increased demand. Now, with the increased sales of the R5 and R6, that has put increased demand on the RF lenses. In addition to this, the number of full-frame mirrorless camera users who purchase RF lenses has been accelerating since the launch of the R5 and R6. Not really a surprise there, but I suspect that one of the reasons they're having trouble meeting demand is not just because more people are buying R5s and R6s, which they are, but we have this, I don't know, what is it called? Yeah, global chip shortage, which is affecting things as well. So I do suspect it's that, various production issues that are also causing problems. So there is a huge demand for the lenses. And what does this mean for Canon in the future? Well, Canon's very optimistic. They've raised their projections for the future. As for our outlook, in response to strong demand for camera bodies, we raised our unit sales projection by 100,000 units and now project full-year unit sales to be 3 million units. We also raised our sales projection to reflect strong sales among lenses. In unison with this, we will also strive to maintain stable profitability by continuing efforts to optimize expenses. Let's try and read between the lines. Now, they want to optimize profitability and reduce expenses. And before I really delve too deep into that, I also want to borrow from what happened to Apple this week as well. Now, Apple also released their numbers, and there's some strong parallels here. Now, Apple had much better sales growth than Canon did. They increased, I think it was up to $81.4 billion for the quarter. That's for the quarter. That's staggering. This company is now valued at $2.4 trillion, and they increased gross margin, which was around 38% before, to, I believe it was 43.29. So before it was 39.6, and it's now 43.29%. So when I read what Canon says about reducing expenses and increasing profitability, and I read what Apple has done by increasing gross profit margin, that tells me that prices are going to go up. That tells me I'm going to pay more. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see that Canon and Apple are profitable. That means they're going to continue to produce gear that I need. The last thing I want to do is buy into an ecosystem where the company's on the way out. That forces me to do some sort of migration in the future. But I also don't like feeling like I'm being taken advantage of. And that's never fun. In the past, I felt that Apple charged way too much for the RAM and too much for the storage. I think it was right around actually from 2016 all the way up to almost 2019, I was looking at a MacBook Pro. And when I realized that everything is soldered onto the motherboard, that means I have to get at least 1 terabyte of storage for the SSD, and I'm figuring about 32 gigs of RAM. I had to buy it all then. I couldn't wait till prices come down and upgrade later. And the price was so high, it was around $5,000 to $6,000 Canadian, that I thought, you know what, I'm just not going to buy. And I didn't. And I ended up buying an iMac Pro used for 4,500 Canadian, or about 3,700 US. And I've always bought Apple stuff new. The prices are going up enough for me that I'm starting to reconsider whether I buy now or buy later. Now with the R5, I bought it right away, and the primary reason for that is I have a channel here and I raise money through ad sales, through affiliate links where you guys click on ads down below to B&H or links to B&H and Amazon. I get 2% back there. So there's various ways I do collect extra income, including selling this cap at ordinaryfilmmaker.com/merch. Nice little plug there for $34.99. And so when I have all this money coming in and I've got a lot of views coming out, then I go, okay, good. So here's what I can plan out for purchase for the channel. Bought the R5, bought a good tripod. We've talked about this time and time again, the different gear that I'm able to purchase. And so that works really well for me. But the computer, this is not a computer channel. I do cover Apple from time to time because, well, they make a very, very good professional nonlinear editing system or video editing system. And I find that their computers are some of the most efficient and have been for some time the best value for the buck. Now from 2016 to about 2019, I didn't feel that was the case. And then along came the M1 and that completely changed things. I'm still using this M1 MacBook Air. The only thing I did to upgrade it was give it 512 gigs. It's got the 7-core version. It's got 8 gigs of RAM. And I'm able to edit all the work I do on this channel. Now the screen is a little small. It's really not designed for a user like me. I need a bigger screen. I do need more memory. But I had bought this as a home computer and it cost me 1,500 Canadian or about 1,200 US. And I'm able to edit all my videos fine. It's actually about 40% to 60% faster at exporting than the iMac Pro that I used to own. That's a huge difference. A lot of other things it's about the same as the iMac Pro, and a few things it is a little bit slower. But that being said, I mean the price difference, it's about 1/4 the price of the iMac Pro. So I'm feeling better about the affordability of Apple products going forward in terms of the M architecture. It's giving me much better value and I don't mind paying a premium. And I'm really hoping that they come out with a M1 version of the 27-inch iMac very shortly because I do like that big screen. I don't think the MacBook Pro screen is going to be big enough for me. So I am looking for that larger screen, and I really do hope they give me the right options for memory, and I hope it's not trending, because right now, if you look at the pricing between the M architecture and the previous architecture, it's trending that RAM prices are about twice the price over the Intel versions, and I really hope that's not the case. It shouldn't be. I mean, it's all integrated, it's system on a chip. Economies of scale for producing it should go down, and hopefully with these higher profit margins, they'll realize, hey, look, we're making a lot of money, let's lower these prices a little bit because, yeah, great sales, increased revenue, while good for a company, isn't always good for us as retailers, as customers. So I really do hope that we're not going to see things like huge premiums on the M1 architecture when we go to the 30-inch or the iMac Pro. But also on the Canon side of things, look how much we're paying for lenses. I just bought the 100mm f2.8 macro, lovely lens, really terrific. I mean, it produces great results. I can't fault it for what it does. It's a really, really great lens. And again, I bought it right away because I have a channel. It's a chance for me to use it right away to show you guys what it's like. you know, taking that money that you give me through ad revenue and through affiliate links and putting it back into the channel. If I didn't have the channel, I wouldn't have bought it. I would have waited months. I would have waited to hopefully see a sale on Black Friday, or maybe wait a year or two until the price comes down to it's a bit more affordable to me. And that's the perfect segue into behind the scenes. So yes, it's good to see positive earnings. That's my point here. It's good to see positive earnings, but sometimes when companies say they're going to reduce expenses and increase profitability, get ready for the price to go up. All right. So talking about behind the scenes, I've been reached out to, several companies have contacted me. A lot of these are Chinese companies that are coming out with third-party, well, they are third-party companies producing RF glass. And a lot of the times the prices are anywhere from around $200 to $500 for the lenses, and their counterparts in the Canon glass, I'll give you an example, the 50mm f1.2 RF is what, about $2,300 US. It's about $3,600 Canadian after taxes in Ontario. Other provinces are cheaper or more expensive. That's a lot of money, and unless you're a professional or you've got a YouTube channel like I am, you're generating money from your camera, it's very difficult. It's almost impossible to justify that price of a lens unless you have a very healthy disposable income. But as we start to get below $1,000 and then below $600, $500 and so on, it changes things. But when we get down to these cheaper lenses, what you generally have to sacrifice is you have less detail as you move from the center out to the edges. You have more chromatic aberration. The sharpness isn't there as much. Are you guys interested? Let me know in the comment section down below. Are you interested in me spending more time covering lenses that are more affordable, around the $400, $500, $600 price points, or under $1,000? Or do you still want to see me cover more of the professional? Is that what matters to you? Even if you can't afford it, it's something you dream for. Let me know which you're interested in, because like I said, I'm being approached by a lot more companies, and a company just contacted me yesterday interested in sending me, you ready for this, a 50mm for the RF, that's 1.2. Yeah, 1.2, and it's around, I think, can't remember the price. It's definitely below $500 though. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you've got the R5, if you can afford the R5, you can probably afford the 50mm. Well, yes, for a lot of people that's true, but a lot of people buying these lenses are also hobbyists, and still it's easy to say justify the wife, you're going to get the R5, it's your hobby, it's cheaper than a sports car or something else, and she might give you the go-ahead. But then if you go back to her saying, you know, I need another $2,300 US or almost $4,000 Canadian, she's going to look at you crazy and probably not be too happy with you spending that money, especially if you're in your retirement years and that $4,000 can go elsewhere. So let me know in the comment section down below. The other thing I want to talk about in behind the scenes is this new set that I seem to be considering. This is outside. I can use it all year round. I can use it when it's raining unless it's coming down really, really badly. And the reason why I'm using this setup is I'm finding that I'm able to get the colors better. I'm able to get the dynamic range that I need. I'm able to get the exposure correct. And I've changed my settings. Somebody asked me yesterday, what are my settings for this? How am I filming? Well, you know, I'm filming with the Canon R5. I use the RF 50mm f1.2, which is a terrific lens. And I pretty much have it anywhere between f2.2 and f2.8. I think it's closer to 2.5 today. And I have a variable ND filter on there, and it's about 2 stops or so, somewhere right around there. That's the gear that I'm using. Now, the Manfrotto, you could use any tripod, but I use the Manfrotto 504X with aluminum tripod. It's a great fluid head. It's perfect for video. But the settings, and this is where I found the best luck. I've been using C-Log a lot, and I think C-Log it works great when I'm doing a lot of run and gun, but for these talking head pieces, C-Log is an awful lot of work. And yes, I've gotten LUTs that can improve the color balancing and grading, but still, to get those rich Canon skin colors that we're all known for, you pretty well have to be an 8-bit. Once you go into 10-bit, those Canon skin colors no longer exist. You really do have to have an awful lot of knowledge when it comes to color balancing. And I'm certainly not experienced enough to be able to pull those skin tones and everything to be just perfect. Now, if it's a nature scene, then yes, I have no problem and I can do that. I can do animals, but with people, it's, if the skin color's off just a little bit or the tone's off or the saturation, people notice. And a lot of times I still have trouble raising the skin tones when I try to bring the color back to the face, to the cheeks. Instead of getting that kind of reddish orange skin tone that I would get being a Caucasian or Western male, I tend to get a reddish color. It looks fake, it doesn't look real. So I've decided, you know, for the talking head pieces for YouTube, I'm just not going to bother with 10-bit. I'm going to use 8-bit. And I find that goes a whole lot better. So it's on 8-bit. I set the color balancing. In this case, it's to shade. So the sun is out and it's mostly shaded. Sometimes clouds come across, but again, that's the profile I've got it set to. Color profile is fine detail. I'm shooting in 4K HQ, 30 frames per second, all I. And actually, I'm letting the Ninja 5 record it, so it's coming out as ProRes 422, which makes editing a whole lot easier. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've certainly noticed an improvement over the last month in terms of the quality, in terms of the exposure, color saturation. That's kind of what I'm focusing at right now. And the main purpose of putting this video out today is not because I had really impressive news to share with you, but because I wanted to practice a bit more. I want to get outside shooting with this genre, improving upon the contrast, the skin tones, the lighting. And it's certainly not easy. It takes a lot of work. The amount of gear that I have here, like I said, I've got the R5, I've got the tripod, I'm using the battery adapter, so the camera's running off the AC. I've got the Ninja 5 on its own tripod, using an AC adapter, again plugged into the mains. I've got an HDMI cable from the Ninja to the R5. I've got two tripods here, one with a ring light here, one with a flat panel Godox light right here. And it makes for a lot of setup. Plus I've got my laptop, oh, and I've got my trusty Tascam. So with all this stuff, this is perfect because that's my house right there. I just bring it outside, and most of the times I leave it right there by the doorway. My wife doesn't mind. Sometimes if I haven't shot a video in a few days or a week, she'll start taking stuff to the basement. A definite no, don't touch the gear. But I understand. I try to minimize the amount of space I take up in the house for my stuff. All the gear's in the basement, but I do have a tiny little place in the kitchen. And it's a big kitchen, and we're only 3 people, so I usually keep that there. However, when I need to go outside, if I want to do an interview and I'm going externally, that poses a rather huge challenge because now I got to take my car with me. Obviously, I can't take the train. I got to pile all the stuff into the back. There's the checklist to make sure I haven't forgotten anything, including, I haven't even talked about batteries, but there's a checklist for that. Then taking it out, setting everything up, it's an awful lot of work. So for my videos, yeah, I like this setting here. It's the closest I can get to a studio without being indoors. And I really don't like shooting indoors. I feel like I'm missing out on life. And yes, it's a little bit hot right now. It's only 73 degrees or about 22 Celsius, but it's a little bit humid. But I can hear the birds. You can't see it. Well, you can see a little bit right here, but I can see the beautiful green here, the green of the trees. And this tree here, I don't know what it's called, but it has grown so much this year. Usually in previous years, come May, it'll put out some leaves and it stops. And then July, it puts out a bunch more leaves again and it grows a little bit. And last year, I actually thought I was going to be cutting it down because it just didn't grow. But this year, it's exploded. And I can see the beautiful daisies and other flowers we have along the property here. And it just makes me feel better. I feel more confident. I feel happy. As opposed to my studio down in the basement. And, you know, a lot of people like going with that black theme, you know, black everything, and it's got a cool look to it. But it's very dark. It's very dungeony. It's not very pleasant. And I get frustrated, especially after I shoot more than once, because I'm stuck in the basement. And I can see the light shining in from outside. And we have very little summertime here in Canada. And I want to be outside. I want to shoot in the weather. I want to enjoy it. And I think it certainly makes a better video product. So that's what I'm doing. And sorry, my nose is itchy. That's a little bit of behind the scenes, what I want to share with you and what I'm trying to do. Good God, I'm at 21 minutes already? Okay, that's an awful lot of talking. I thought I didn't have anything to say. But please, again, when you guys criticize, when you provide advice, well, criticism's one thing, but criticism with advice or options or recommended solutions, I love that. And I do take what you guys have to say. I've listened to you all along. You've noticed me change my channel since the early days. And if you've only started following me in the last few months, go take a look at some of my first videos. You'll see how horrendous they were. And then skip ahead every month, looking at to see what has changed and improved. And it certainly is a journey. You know, you think, as you're starting to get into filming or taking stills, you think, well, how hard can it be, right? You know, it's just a camera. All it does is take photos. You change a few settings. Okay, ISO, exposure, focal range, all that sort of stuff. That can't be. How hard can that be? Until you actually get into it, you don't fully grasp it. It's just like my wife's trying to call me. I'll call her in a few minutes. My birthday's tomorrow. Oh, that's one more thing I want to talk to you about. My birthday's tomorrow. And a year ago to this date, and actually it was probably about a week before my birthday. No, it was a week before my birthday. I had emergency surgery. You remember that? And the day I was discharged, I was in my hospital room. I was just slowly getting ready, and I get a call from Canon Canada. And Neil said to me, hey, I got some great news. I said, yeah, I got the R5 for you. I said, great. And I was sore. I couldn't even lift anything. Like, even to hold a camera that day was too painful. And he said, how are you? I said, well, I just had emergency surgery, so I'm not feeling so great. Can I get back to you a little later and let you know? I should have just said yes then and there, but I really wasn't feeling that great. I'd had surgery like 8 hours before. Well, when I got home, I thought to myself, you know what? Just say yes. Even if you're only hand-holding it, even if it's only on the corner of your desk. It hasn't been released yet. Get the camera, use it as much as you can. And I did. And thank you to Canon Canada. Thank you to Neil. He brought it to me. He picked it up, and I got a good 3 days out of it. And I really learned a lot about the camera. But yeah, it's amazing if you look back. Forget all the other stuff that's going on in the world. How I've changed, how I've grown in the last year. My skills as a photographer and videographer have grown quite a bit. And yes, I'm still going to call this the ordinary filmmaker. Somebody said I should call myself the ordinary video guy. No, because I see myself as an ordinary filmmaker. I don't make films for you. I make films for my family. And I put a lot of effort into them. Do the audio work, put a score to it. And I do create films. Just because it's not something in Hollywood doesn't mean it's not a film. And so the reason I went with ordinary filmmaker is because I think a lot of us, when we get our cameras, we like to think of ourselves as ordinary filmmakers. We don't see ourselves as Spielbergs, although we try to be sometimes. We'll see something in a show, see something in a movie, and we'll try to duplicate it. And for me, Top Gear has been a great inspiration, or the Grand Tour. The editing those guys do, the audio, the scoring, the coloration, the balancing, just truly amazing. But anyhow, yeah, I need to call my wife back. It's now 25 minutes. But that's okay. You know what? I know many people are probably turned off at this point, but I know a lot of you, like me, is, you know, when we click on a video on YouTube, we want more than just 2 or 3 minutes. If it's news, yes, I'll hit you right up the front. I'll give you the news right away. But then some of the other topics, it's nice when the presenter goes in and talks more and gives me more of FaceTime. It's like Veritasium. I really love his content. It is very detailed, but he doesn't rush his videos. I wouldn't be surprised if someday that guy actually is picked up by Nova or some other well-known television show, and they have the full film crew, because the work he does and even the finished product, it looks like it's shot by a professional film crew. It probably is. I mean, the professional film camera is everything. When something looks that good, it's not just the guy presenting. It's audio, it's equipment, it's setting, it's grading, it's software, it's lenses, it's cameras, it's everything. But that is it for now. Thank you so much for sticking around. Please use the affiliate links, as they do help support the channel. But that's it now. That's it for now. Have yourself a good day, and we'll see you again soon.